Mic check, mic check. Welcome back, 3%ers. You know I got something on my mind, so I got to get it off. And what I want to tell you is you are a bitch. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. You are a bitch ass nigga. Or you just a straight up bitch. And here's why I say that. Because you go through life looking at everybody else's life and thinking to yourself, why can't my life be that easy? I want a life that's like this or like that. I see all these people living this life on the internet and their life looks great. You know what I'm saying? And I just kind of realized that you are a bitch ass nigga. And I say that because I recognize bitch assness within myself. Because it's easy for us to want to compare and contrast our life to other people's lives. Because naturally, as a human, you want an easy life. You want a life that's just full of leisure and, things that you can do that are just fun to you. Which it sounds great, right? On the surface, it sounds great. But in reality, if you are a true 3%er and a true thinker of life, a life of comfort and a life of ease does not promote growth. So you sit back and you say, I want to work really hard so I can have a life that's easy. And that's when you get old. You work hella hard so you could have a life that's easy. So you could live a life of leisure. But that doesn't promote growth. And that's what has the world stuck in this bitch assness. Because you want things to be soft and plush and wonderful. I want to live like the millionaires and billionaires. I just want a life that's just so easy. But how are you supposed to reach higher levels of yourself in a world that's comfortable? When you are comfortable, you don't want to get up and do the hard thing. And the hard thing is what promotes the growth. It's like building muscles. You can't build muscle if you're just sitting down chilling. You build muscle by putting the muscle under intense stress. And maybe there's moments where you chill and you let it recover, but then you go right back to putting it under pressure. And that is what life's about. That is how you grow. You can't grow by looking at life as how can I make life easy? It's natural and it's been put into us and programmed into us to want a life that's easy, that's just so wonderful. But then you wonder why the people who have these good lives aren't so happy with their lives. They look for outlets to get away from their life of having everything that they want. See, life is about the pursuit. It's not about the capture. It's the pursuit that pushes us past the boundaries that we have for ourselves that make us stronger, better, wiser. But if you're constantly living in a world that you're accustomed to and that you're used to, and if you stay in the world that you've always been in, then you can never reach a higher level. And so you're always seeking security. And when I say you, I say myself too. I'm included in that. The only way that you are going to master yourself and master life is by constantly being in a state of pressure, and the type of pressure where it tells your inner self either we're going to fold or we're going to rise to the occasion. So if you're living a life that you've always lived and that you've always been in, and you're stuck in the routine that you're used to, you should feel frustrated. You should feel angry, not at everybody else, but with yourself and with your circumstances. And if you're not angry, if you're not pissed off, and if you're not trying to figure out ways that you can make things be better, then you're not a 3%er. And I would go as far as to say is you're not a real person. Because what it means to be a spirit in this world is to be focused on soaking up every possible bit of information and knowledge you can to push yourself further and see if you can reach limits that you've never reached before and take them to another level. But if you're always doing what you always did, then how do you grow? You know, it's like the people that you see that go to the gym and they've been going there for years and they do the same workouts and they do the same thing and they never get stronger. They never get more in shape. They never are able to push themselves beyond what they have become accustomed to. Now maybe that's what they're looking for, but what we're saying is the only way to go further is to push yourself further. I got a story of this girl that I used to work with. And she was a real cool girl, like outgoing, just, like full of life. And we always got along, but at the job, she just kind of never really felt like she was cool. And she would be the type of person that was like willing to be combative with upper management and the status quo of how things were supposed to go. And one day she was getting reprimanded for something that she did. And she just on the spot was just like, fuck it, I'm out. And I had ran into her and I was like, yo, so I never knew what happened. I just saw you like just leave. Like what happened? And she was just like, I just felt like I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I just know that there's something better for me. And so she was willing to put herself in a situation where maybe she doesn't have income. And it might be different because she's a girl. But the knowledge of the situation is what matters most, is the fact that she was willing to say, you know what? I don't like this. And I don't want to be in a world where I'm just comfortable just doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to go further. And she said, you know what? This job ain't serving me. Fuck it, I'm out. And she just walked out. And I remember thinking to myself after having that conversation with her, damn, I wish that I was as bold as she was. Because there was plenty of moments where I felt the exact same way. And I didn't do it because I felt like, well, how am I going to pay my bills? And I got to be, smart, and I can't just go out on a whim. And both things can be true. But I always had a deep reverence for her, for the fact that she just was able to just be like, fuck it, I'll find another way. Like, this isn't serving me. I'll go somewhere that is serving me. And that is how you have to treat life. You can't get complacent with the world that you're in. You have to constantly be striving for more. There has to be something better. And I mean that in an esoteric way, not in a materialistic way. Meaning like, what else could I be doing that's better? How can I put myself in a position where I have to show up and I have to perform? Because quitting a job when you don't have another job puts you in a situation where, how am I going to get these bills paid? And she was more willing and had more faith in herself that it would just work out rather than feeling like, well, I'll just be stuck in a situation that I'm unhappy in and I'll just get my bills paid this way. And when I saw her and I talked to her, she ended up being able to get another job. And we could deep dive into those things of what opened doors for her. But what mattered most is that she had faith in herself and her abilities to say, I'll find something better. And she did. And she wasn't somebody who ended up being homeless and not having anything or having to go back home and live with her parents. She challenged herself and believed in herself, and she stepped up to the challenge and found a way. If you grow an orange tree or any tree that produces fruit for that matter, when you first start off, it starts off in a small little pod. But once those roots start getting bigger and start stretching out further, they need more space in order for the rest of the tree to grow. In order for the fruit producing branches to be able to produce fruit, the roots are going to need more space. So then you have to transfer it to another pot. And yes, it can be really tough on the roots once you do change it over, because damn, it goes, oh shit, we're in a new situation where things aren't what we're used to, but we needed this to grow. And so in the first few weeks, it might take a little time, but once those roots just like realize, you know what, we're good. We're able to get the things that we need to survive. It starts to grow, and now it has space to grow. But the rest of the tree can't grow unless the roots are able to go further. So the further that you're able to push yourself and the bigger the pot that you put yourself in, metaphorically speaking, the bigger you'll be able to grow, which means that you'll be able to produce more fruit. But if you keep yourself in a space in life where you're always in that same pot, those roots start to reach the level of where they're just bending back and they're not able to actually extend forward and find new areas of nutrients in life. And this is how you have to see your life. Forget all the stuff that you see on the internet about everybody living certain lives, or looking at the streamers, or looking at people that you grew up and saying, damn, how come I can't have that? Why isn't my life like that? And you're comparing yourself to them. But you never ask the right question, which is, are they growing? Because you could live a life of comfort and you could live a life of wealth and never grow. You could also live a life of poverty and never grow. The pursuit is what matters most. The journey is what matters most. What you capture doesn't matter. Once you capture something, It's like sport fishing. Once you capture something, you go, damn, yeah, I caught it. All right, cool. On to the next. What else can I catch? What bigger fish can I get? And when you get to a certain point, you start to realize that you're limitless. You start to realize that with enough time and enough effort, there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that you can't be good at. So give up on the bitch assness, because you could be really good at being a bitch ass nigga too. This isn't a talk about a materialistic life of things like that. Those things can come. They'll come and they'll go. What matters is are you growing? Are you the same person today as you were yesterday and the day before and the weeks before and the months before and the years before? Because if you're looking at yourself and you're saying, I'm still the same, I haven't changed, I'm still in the same situation, you got to look in the mirror and you got to put yourself in challenging situations for you to grow. You're not going to grow by living a life of safety. You're not going to grow by living a life where I got to make sure everything's okay before I take this step. It's like the old saying goes, scary money don't make no money. So while you're here and while you got your time here, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sit back and let life pass you by and be in the same position year after year after year to the point where your woes start to be on you? You start to wear your woes, where people can look at you and go, damn, even though you're getting sun, you look discolored, you look gray, you look down, you look out. Life is whooping your ass. Or you're going to be the type of person that no matter what punch life throws at you, you're able to wipe that shit off and keep it pushing and say, come on, let's go. I got more in me. Let's go to the next round. Because if you live a life like that, at the end, you'll be fulfilled. No matter what things you have, no matter what type of money you got, all that shit is fake anyway. What matters is, did you challenge yourself and did you grow? Because when you do that, your soul will be happy. It'll be easier to walk around with a smile on your face. It'll be easier to uplift other people. It'll be easy for everybody to think that your life is on easy mode, even though you just lost the most important person to you to a death, and then somebody else got put in jail, or somebody else can't do this or can't do that because of an injury or whatever the situation may be. But at some point, you have to challenge the God within you to see what God is capable of. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to remind you to let go of your bitch assness. Same for myself. Challenge yourself to get to points in life that are further than you've ever been. And you'll be able to look back and be like, damn, look how far I came. Look how cold of a motherfucker I've been. I'm that motherfucker. And that's why when I walk in a room, motherfuckers be looking at me like, what the fuck? What's up with him? Or the people who don't let their light shine, they turn a side eye. And it's not because I'm arrogant or egotistical. It's because I know I don't have to believe. When you know, there is no reason to believe. Belief is for people who don't know. And the only way to know is to do. So until the next one, stay suave, stay stupid. Boss man out.